I want to talk about HB 454. That's House Bill in Congress right now, 454. It's called the Safe Bases Act of 2025. HR 454, titled the Safe Bases Act of 2025, is a bill introduced in the U.S. House of Representatives on January 15th, 2025, by Representative Gregory Stubbe. He's out of Florida. The bill aims to authorize the Department of Defense to permit certain active duty service members to carry concealed firearms in military installations. Now, it's kind of funny. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about this, and I said, hey, right now you can't carry on a military base. And there's a lot of things that happen on a military base. It's not just military activity. There's housing, there's groceries, there's all kinds of stuff on a military base. And we talked about a solution. Little did I know that this bill actually exists, HB 454. Now, here's the thing, though. This bill, although, yes, is aiming to allow concealed carry on bases, not a great bill. Not a great bill. It's not a horrible bill. It's not a bad bill, but not a great bill. The Secretary of Defense is directed to establish a centralized authority within the DoD to issue concealed carry permits to eligible service members. That's how the bill is being described. It's going to issue to qualified people, which to be qualified, you have to be a service member. You must be on active duty and not prohibited under federal law. So you have to obviously be able to legally own and purchase a firearm. The bill mandates that the permit system be established within 1 year of its enactment. The primary objective of HR 454 is to enhance the safety and security of military personnel by allowing qualified individuals to carry concealed firearms on base, potentially providing a means of self-defense in situations where immediate law enforcement response may be delayed. Now, it hasn't been voted on. It certainly hasn't been passed, but and I get what they're trying to do. But I truly believe the flaw in this is, number one, they're creating an enormous bureaucracy. So they're making this huge process that is going to get bloated and weighed down and horrible. I mean, they're putting the Department of Defense in charge of, of issuing permits to a very select group of people, which is another part of the problem here. I understand what they're trying to accomplish. They want to enhance the safety and security of military personnel by allowing them to carry. I think that is a great objective, but there is a much better way to do this. I think that the way to do this, which is going to be way cheaper, it's not going to require a new bureaucracy, and it's going to affect positively far more people. Back in the Obama administration, they actually passed a bill that forced national parks to adopt the carry permit process, the carry regulations, the carry laws of the host state. So if your national park was in Utah, then you honored Utah's carry laws. If your national park was in the state of Washington, then you honored the state of Washington laws. Military bases should do the exact same thing. What'll that do? Well, it will allow military personnel active duty to carry. It'll also allow dependents to carry. So their spouse, their adult family members, whatever, whoever's dependent and they're living on base, or maybe they're going grocery shopping on base. Some people just like to go get gas on base because it's cheaper. It's a benefit of being a military dependent. And it'll also apply to civilian contractors. There are a lot of civilian contractors that work on military bases. Maybe they were former military and now they've worked at a civilian job and they still have access to the base, and they need to be able to carry to protect themselves as well. So then, rather than a small select group of military personnel who are active duty, who have gone through this horrible bureaucracy that they're creating, rather than they being the only ones allowed to carry, they should just simply adopt the host state's carry laws. And if you can carry off base, then you can carry on base. Now, this isn't going to affect who can access the base. If you're not authorized to be on the military base, you won't be authorized to carry on the base because you can't get on the base. It's also not going to disallow them from making certain areas, off limits to people who are carrying, like flight lines or, armories, that sort of thing. because dependents and contractors aren't allowed there already. If you're not authorized to be there, then obviously you're not going to gain that authorization simply because you can now carry. I think that HR 454, it's got its heart in the right place, and we've actually reached out to Congressman Stubbe to see if he can come on the show and talk more about it. Maybe he's thinking about this in addition to this suggestion, but I think the right thing to do is to have these military bases adopt the laws of the host state. So what do you guys think about that? What are your thoughts? We talked about it a little bit already, Dakota, but what do you think in light of the HR 454? What do you think of HR 454? What do you think about my suggestion versus 454?
Yeah, I definitely like your suggestion more. The biggest thing that I don't like about 454 is that you have to be active duty, because all of the wives of these or spouses of these active duty folks are still unable to, carry and protect their family in their home. And the people, their children that live in their home with them. And all of that, I think, is the bad piece of it. We also have in the not so distant news, at the beginning of August, there was that active shooting on a military base that was tragic. And we're seeing that happen. I mean, it's not the first one of its kind. Mm-hmm. And so I do think that this is, we've talked about it on the show before, but if the government is going to tell me I can't do the thing that I do all the time, every day, everywhere it's legal, if they're telling me I can't carry a gun to defend my own life, then they need to be guaranteeing my protection. And supposedly, military bases are supposed to be safe, right? You drive your vehicle through. They sometimes, I think they have the authority to look in your car. I mean, it's like a searched entrance place, right?
You give up a lot of rights going on
onto a base. Mm-hmm. But even with all of that, it's not enough. We're not stopping these active shooters before they begin shooting. We're stopping them once the first shots are going off and people are aware of what's happening. And so, I think it's tragic that these people are giving their entire life to the government. They are working, they're giving up the ability to live where they want to with their families, they're going out on deployments, like they're literally giving their entire autonomous adult existence to the government, and the government is still not protecting them and is not giving them the basic human right of defending their own life.
Well, in military housing, it's just like any neighborhood. I mean, sexual assault and domestic violence exist in these neighborhoods just like they exist outside of military bases. I only lived on a military base for 4 years. My dad was in the military for most of my growing up, but I only lived on a military base for 4 years, and it was out in Honolulu. And everybody I knew lived on a military base, whether it was Air Force or Navy or whatever. I mean, it's its own ecosystem, and it's not. It's not like you're stepping into some kind of nirvana when you go onto a military base. People still have disagreements. There's still, evil still exists on military bases. Mm-hmm. And, if active duty personnel is deployed, you're now leaving a spouse, whether it's a husband or a wife, you're leaving them completely alone and unprotected. Even if you say, hey, look, that person lives with, somebody in the military. And by the way, how many people in the military are even trained for, combat? I mean, many of the military, that's not their job, nor should it be their job. They're just regular human beings. It's just another job. They just have a much cooler uniform. And I think we should support them by making sure that they don't have to give up a natural right, an important right like the Second Amendment, just to serve in the military. And that's exactly what's going on right now.
Yeah.
So one question that I had, because I'm looking things up as you guys are speaking. I see talk about carry, talk about carry on base, carry. We know carry is different than home storage. I mean, is it just an assumption that if this were to go through, that they be allowed for those who live on base to even store it and keep it in their home? I see talk about carry.
Yeah, it wasn't that clear to me.
I mean,
especially because it was saying on duty, not just like active duty orders. So I'm wondering if there's some weird semantic thing happening there where it's like only when you're at work on base and then you have to like store it there and then go home without your gun. It wasn't clear.
It seems silent in a lot of ways where it's important to know what is the intent and how would this be implemented.
I'd be interested to talk to the guy who.
I'm interested
yeah.
too, and they did express interest in coming on the show, so we'll talk about it directly. Right. But I took it to mean, a lot of politicians go, "Hey, I have this final destination I want to get to, but I want to do it in pieces. So let's just take a baby step." And it sounded like this was a baby step. Like, look. We're just going to take a subset of active duty, and we're going to give them a little bit of Second Amendment, and make sure that we have this big bureaucracy that's overseeing them. And then in 3 or 4 years, we'll take another baby. That's kind of how I took it.
Okay.
And I don't skip the baby step. Give people their rights. Acknowledge that we have families that live on these bases. Acknowledge that it is absolutely an important privilege that they get to go shop for cheaper. They get to go buy gas for cheaper. But there's a lot of recreation on military bases.
Yeah.
There are beaches and parks and little league games and soccer and all kinds of stuff. People should be able to defend themselves. People should be able to protect themselves. And I think this congressman has his heart in the right place.
Yeah.
And maybe he's trying to accomplish a slightly different goal. But I say, you know what? If we can do, if it can get done for national parks under Obama, then this should get done under Trump. You know what I mean? What are we doing here? I mean, people keep telling me how important Republicans are to the Second Amendment and how great Trump is. And I agree with a lot of that, but all right, let's, release the hound. Hey, thanks for watching Gun Owners Radio. I hope you loved that clip. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and follow us on social media, and check out our website at gunownersradio.com.